Humble Rookie, and welcome to the video. If you're not aware how hard the mounted HMG placement slaps, let me show you, because after playing it with it for the last few weeks, I am now convinced that it is a solid pick for Super Hell Dive for every faction. It's more than just a defensive stratagem that I think can be brought in with decent success on every other kind of mission type besides the defensive ones. If you support it properly, then you can become a temporary fortress every couple of minutes. Before we go into the builds with each of the factions and tips for them, let's briefly have an overview of the HMG placement for those unaware. A mounted placement that lands wherever your blue stratagem ball happens to actually be sticky and stick to, so be careful where you do toss this thing out. You get a full 360 degrees of rotation. Fair warning, it does take a bit to completely turn around, so ideally you want to just be facing one general direction with this thing. Cooldown time without the ship upgrades is a full 3 minutes or 180 seconds, while it's rounded to about 154 seconds with full ship upgrades. This is ignoring any sort of cooldown modifiers or anything going on with your missions currently. She comes with 300 rounds, cannot be reloaded, and once you expend all 300 rounds, the turret slips away, never to be seen from again. But as long as you leave some amount of ammunition in there and it's not destroyed, the placement will stay there the entire time. So, in some ways, if you end up landing near the extract at the beginning of a mission, one thing I like doing is tossing a gun there, leaving it there, coming back. That way I can already have one ready to go, and I'll have a fresh one ideally still, waiting to be used. She comes with medium pen and a decent enough fire rate that cannot be changed like any other machine guns in the game. That's all you really need to know about the HMG placement at a glance, so let's move on to how it performs with the factions, starting with the bugs. Right off the back, if you consider just a sheer amount of enemies that spawn in from a bug breach on Super Hell Dive, this bad boy will cut through any of the light and medium infantry with ease. With proper placement and support, you can hold back the waves of bugs with ease. Most of the light and medium infantry either outright die in 1 or 2 shots, or if we're looking at something a little larger like the Stalkers or Alpha Commanders, they're staggered out of existence with some concentrated fire and they fold relatively quickly. As I mentioned earlier, it has medium pen, so it will even cut through Chargers, Impalers, and even Bile Titans with some considerable concentrated fire. When it comes to the individual enemies from the bug front, I won't spend too much time talking about the light and medium infantry. Just give them a quick tap or two, and everything on the screen you see here just outright dies or turns to mush. Now when it comes to the Chargers, you can actually drop them with concentrated fire, which, after some testing with them, I'd say your best bet is to aim at their legs, mainly just one of them, strip the armor down, and shortly after you strip the armor down, that should finish them off. Impalers, on the other hand, though, they can be a bit of a risky business with their tentacle attacks being able to easily hit you while you're mobile on the turret, but if you happen to have line of sight, you can play a game of chicken and see who kills who first. Once you see the Impaler start their tentacle attack, just aim right at their forehead area, right where, the soft bits almost kind of join in with their, their chitin, their shell, whatever that's called, and just keep firing at that spot until they die. In my experience, if you start damaging early enough, you will drop them before they get their attack off. So if you're a bit of a gambler, you'll have some tense moment with this. Though, if you see one walking your way without exposing their face, just pepper them a little bit, and you'll get them to egg them on, you can egg them on into doing their tentacle attack. Otherwise, you're just going to waste most of your rounds firing into their shell, which does penetrate it, but it's not worth it at that point. Either focus on something else, or let your other anti-tank guys handle it. As for Bile Titans, while you can damage and eventually kill them with the HMD, it just takes way too long, and you'll more than likely end up being puked on or needing to retreat from your turret, which more than likely ends with it being destroyed as well once the Bile Titan gets a good bit of puke on it. Let's move on to my loadouts and what stratagems I like to bring in for the bugs that fit the whole mobile fortress thing I was talking about earlier. Usually I like to partner my turret with a good old machine gun turret. It has a relatively low cooldown and can protect your rear flank from any would-be hunters trying to sneak up past you. I would recommend trying to keep this on a different form of elevation from you, or you could also use any of the backpack buddies for a similar but albeit more permanent effect since they stay on your back the entire time. Expendable is honestly my favorite form of anti-tank when it comes to this build since it has the shortest cooldown of all the anti-tank weapons and can be ready to fire at a moment's notice with no reload needed, so that way you can just hop right back on your turret or just hop right off and grab another expendable and fire when you need it. Though, speaking candidly, really, you should be pinging the heavies so your teammates that brought dedicated anti-tank can handle them so you can cover your buddies reloading the recoilless rifle with this by dealing with the medium and light infantry chaff. The expendable is more of a quick get-out-of-jail-free card for you more than anything else. Beyond that, your fort slot is more of a flex spot, maybe partnered up with an auto-cannon sentry so you have some additional coverage for heavies, or a 500 kilogram or any of the barrages that you'd like, so that way you can still have some sort of structured extraction as well. Ideally, as long as you have something to cover your flank and a little bit of anti-tank, the HMG placement will handle the rest for you. The cooldown is low enough that it should be available for most objectives during longer missions against the bugs. Moving on to the bots. This is where I think the HMG placement can really shine. The faction has tons of enemies where the medium pin is great for chewing through them, and besides the heavies, you can quite literally stagger most everything that doesn't immediately die from a small burst. The light infantry will all drop in 1 or 2 shots depending on where your shots land. Mobs of berserkers can be cut in half with a little bit of aiming, or just blasted back away from you outright. All variants of the devastators, while able to take more punishment, that's fine, but they all still stagger from any hit that you land on anywhere on their body. Granted, the shield devastators can still block your rounds, which come on, man. At this point, nothing can puncture their shields. You can aim for their exposed arms, legs, or even their heads, and you can stop them from firing if they're already letting their gun off. Striders just about fold anywhere you shoot them, aim for their legs for a quick drop, or just punch through their armor straight up and just drop the guy, piloting it. As for Hulks, you got 2 options really. Aim for the faceplate and you'll just see how quickly they crumble, or just let loose on the main body and you'll munch through their health in no time. Last enemy I wanted to talk about before I move on to the less than desirable targets for the HMG placement are the gunships. You can penetrate their main body with this, but if you aim for their thrusters, you can drop them in just a small handful of well-placed shots. Aim your shots forward if needed depending on the range and the movement of the gunship, and you'll see what I mean. This will come in practice with you, and it'll just be something that you can do fairly easy later on. Moving on to the tanks, I do want to call out that besides the Barrager tank, the other 2 variants cannot be damaged from the front. You can still damage them from their weak points if they're available to you in the HMG placement, but beyond that, you're relying on some form of anti-tank if these guys are facing you straight up. Now, talking about the War Strider and the Factory Strider. First, the War Strider. While it can be damaged with the HMG placement, dude, it just takes way too long, and my main concern is that what you'll have to deal with is that grenade barrage they lob out. Once you see your War Strider coming, ping it for your anti-tank guys, and if you do happen to see a deluge of grenades coming your way, just fall back, retreat for a moment. I've noticed that my turret with full ship upgrades can take at least 1 full barrage, and sometimes even a second one if it hasn't been damaged, so feel free to leave this thing here, come back to it. Remember, you have to also remember, it's expendable. Well, it's as expendable as you are, but you are a little bit more valuable than an HMG placement, I would hope. As for the Factory Striders, you can damage them by aiming at their eye, that same weak point where a recoilless rifle will one-shot them, but honestly, even with aiming for this weak point, you'll expend way too many rounds in time that would be better spent just chewing through the other enemies and just letting your dedicated anti-tank guys taking them out for you. Now, when it comes to the ideal stratagems that I like bringing in with the HMG placement against the bots, I want to make one real strong case for the shield generator relay. Comboing these 2 together with bots really does make you feel like a fortress ready to go at a moment's notice. And again, I have to just praise the goodness of the shield generator relay. It has a relatively short cooldown. It can give you the added protection needed so that way you can get on your turret and start mowing things down, especially if you're dealing with the Incineration Corp with all that fire bullshit that they throw at you. Being able to nullify all that damage even for a moment, because let's be honest, yeah, a lot of people are going to say the shield generator doesn't have a lot of health, but my dude, it comes down in under 2 minutes. Really, it's like 1.5 minutes at worst. But just even having 10 seconds of having nothing being able to touch you, that can be all the time that it needs for you to get on your turret, acquire targets, blast them, letting your anti-tank guys get a reload in. Like, this together with the bots is what you should be bringing in. Next, I prefer either the autocannon sentry or the rocket sentry. With the additional units that just can't be damaged by the HMG placement or they're just too inefficient to be damaged by them, having either one of these will help shore up some of your lack of anti-tank and your weakness for it. You can handle the light, medium, and some of the heavies. You should be clearing your way for your anti-tank, whether it be your Helldivers or your turrets. As for your forward slot, really, it's up to your preference again. I kind of leave this open so that we could just bring whatever you want in, or just as a flex spot for whatever the mission might be. Lastly, let's go over the Squids. One thing I do want to say at the start of this is that I think using the HMG placement does incur the greatest risk with the Squids against the other 2 factions. The Harvester will have no problem beaming you while you're stationary on the turret, and the same thing can be said for the recent addition of the strafing runs that the Squids have started employing. Also, I cannot forget the flesh mob in the room. The HMG placement can take them down, but fair warning, it will take some considerable fire to do so, and the entire time that flesh mob can still be advancing on your position, not giving a fuck about all the fire you're throwing at it. Overseers, while they can be annoying, especially the flying variants, for the most part, they can be dispatched rather quickly. Just like the Devastators, the HMG placement will stagger them out of existence until they drop. Voteless and Watchers are honestly just a non-issue for the most part, except for the potential of being surrounded by Voteless, which is going to cause you to either, hop off and deal with them, or having to turn the turret, which takes quite a bit of time. I do want to talk about the Harvester for just a moment before we move on. When it comes to dealing with them with the HMG placement, while you can aim at their main body and puncture and do damage, aim for the leg joints. They're weak, they'll drop the moment you break one of the legs off, and it's an immediate death. As for their air support, once you see these guys flying around, be mindful of when they'll make full pass. You'll know this is going to happen because you'll see them kind of slow down, stop, and then drop down in elevation before they start firing on your position and moving in. The moment you see them drop in, start firing in, lay in, and start leading your shots. You're going to drop them with a small burst out of the HMG placement. Now, when it comes to loadouts for the Squids, I generally try to keep a slight mix of what I bring in for the bugs and the bots. I'll usually throw in a machine gun turret to help with the voteless spam that comes with them. Now, I know some people might be wondering why I don't prefer using the Gatling Sentry. Honestly, you can use the Gatling Sentry if you prefer. It's just, in my opinion, I found that the low cooldown of the machine gun sentry just outweighs every other benefit that you get from the Gatling Sentry. Just having this thing always being available to cover my flank or just to toss it out to deal with any spams of voteless is just pretty nice, and it also can handle overseers with considerable ease as well. Now, I'm not going to say that the shield generator relay is necessary for the Squids, but again, it's just so good against any sort of the ranged factions we're having, which right now it's just the bots and the Squids, but damn, just being able to stop a single Harvester beam so you can just focus it down. Same can be said for surviving a strafing run. There's just so much utility brought in with it, and when you pair it with the HMG placement, the shield generator is honestly just a hard thing not to bring in against the Squids. As for the last slot, I do tend to prefer to have one of the backpack buddies, or, having your own dedicated anti-tank if you feel like you need it for the Harvesters. And that's really it when it comes to the HMG placement. Like I said at the very beginning, I think it's a solid pick with all the factions with some build around, but truth be told, on occasion, I have actually just brought this thing on a whim with just no other supporting loadout, just because I couldn't figure out my last slot. It's honestly something that never disappoints when I bring it in, and it's one of the few stratagems that I feel does get better the more the game throws at you. And man, I gotta say, it's always a good time to use it. I know I keep saying that, but you can have some epic looking last stands on this thing. But hopefully you try it out. Hopefully being an expendable fortress or temporary fortress serves you well. But thank you for watching. Have a good day.
I really do love this thing, dude.